She hid secrets in her hair, inches from Jefferson Davis. The history of the American Civil War is almost always painted in broad, bloody strokes of grand battlefield maneuvers and legendary generals. Yet the most devastating, irreparable blow to the Confederacy did not come from a Union cannon on the front lines, but from a quiet, elegant parlor room situated just blocks away from the rebel capital. Behind the heavy velvet drapes of her family's historic mansion, Elizabeth Van Lew single-handedly engineered a shadow intelligence network of extraordinary sophistication, brilliantly turning the rigid social prejudices of Southern high society into her most impenetrable tactical shield. To truly understand how this solitary woman dismantled a rebellion from within its own beating heart, we must look far past the carefully constructed myth of the eccentric recluse and peer into the dark, incredibly dangerous mechanisms of her secret Richmond underground. While traditional textbooks attribute the Union's eventual intelligence victories to military scouts and brute tactical force, the real catalyst for Elizabeth's success lay in her deliberate exploitation of the deep-seated Victorian belief that women, particularly wealthy Southern ladies, were intellectually incapable of political intrigue or complex military planning. Leveraging this profound societal blind spot with cold, calculated precision, Van Lew assumed the public persona of Crazy Bette, wearing mismatched, soiled clothes, muttering incoherently to herself as she wandered the cobblestone streets of Richmond, and adopting a vacant, erratic gaze that led local Confederate authorities to dismiss her as a harmless, mentally unstable spinster, rather than a serious threat. This brilliant, humiliating masquerade allowed her to move completely unhindered through the heavily guarded capital, visiting Union prisoners of war at the notorious Libby prison, under the guise of Christian charity, where she secretly smuggled them vital food, medicine, and, most importantly, hidden writing materials to extract critical intelligence regarding Confederate troop movements. Yet, her most audacious and incredibly risky move was not smuggling information out of the military prison, but placing a highly trained sleeper agent directly inside the private household of Confederate President Jefferson Davis himself. To achieve this seemingly impossible infiltration, Elizabeth turned to Mary Bowser, a brilliant, formerly enslaved woman, whom the Van Lew family had previously freed and educated in Philadelphia, convincing her to return to the heart of mortal danger, and accept a position as a seemingly illiterate domestic servant in the Confederate White House. Operating under the cover of systemic racial prejudice that assumed she could neither read nor comprehend complex state affairs, Bowser silently memorized troop dispatches, cabinet meeting minutes, and top-secret military maps left carelessly open on Davis's desk, relaying them to Van Lew during highly covert night meetings in the shadows of the city. Van Lew then encoded these priceless military secrets using a highly complex cipher system she designed herself, hiding the encrypted messages inside hollowed-out eggs, double-bottomed sewing baskets, and even the shoes of her dedicated network of couriers who walked the dangerous, patrol-heavy roads to the Union lines. But as the war reached its bloody, desperate zenith in 1864, a single intercepted letter threatened to expose the entire Richmond underground, forcing Elizabeth to make a terrifying split-second decision that would either save her network or send them all to the gallows. In early 1864, Union Colonel Ulrich Dahlgren launched a daring, highly controversial cavalry raid on Richmond, with the desperate objective of assassinating Jefferson Davis. A high-stakes mission that ended in absolute disaster, when Confederate forces killed Dahlgren, and publicly desecrated his body. When Confederate authorities discovered highly sensitive papers on Dahlgren's corpse, detailing the assassination plot, they buried him in an unmarked, secret grave, to prevent him from ever becoming a Union martyr, sparking a frantic, desperate search by Northern commanders, who needed to recover his remains to preserve military morale. Elizabeth Van Lew immediately mobilized her shadow network, directing Union sympathizer and local Richmond builder F.W.E. Lohman to locate the secret grave, exhume Dahlgren's body under the cover of a torrential midnight rainstorm, and smuggle the coffin out of the city, hidden beneath a wagonload of innocent-looking peach trees. But as Lohman's wagon approached the heavily guarded city gates, a patrol of suspicious Confederate cavalrymen ordered him to halt, their flickering lanterns illuminating the very dirt covering the stolen coffin of the Union's most hated officer, leaving the entire mission hanging by a single thread. Utilizing her extensive, highly secretive network of bribes and sympathizers, Van Lew had previously secured official travel passes signed by unwitting Confederate officers, which Lohman presented with absolute, cold composure, while casually joking with the guards about the quality of his agricultural cargo to distract them. The daring ruse succeeded, allowing the conspirators to rebury Dahlgren on a friendly farm, but the theft of a high-profile Union colonel's body from right under the military's nose sent Richmond into a state of paranoid hysteria, with investigators narrowing their sights on the wealthy Unionist mansion on Church Hill. Armed soldiers repeatedly searched the Van Loo estate, tearing up floorboards and interrogating the household, yet they found absolutely nothing, because Elizabeth had constructed a secret soundproof room behind a false wall in her attic, where she was actively hiding escaped Union officers. As the Confederate counterintelligence net closed in, and neighbors openly called for her execution, the Union Army made a sudden, massive push toward Richmond, setting the stage for a final, terrifying confrontation, where Elizabeth would have to play her ultimate, most dangerous card to survive. The ultimate survival and unparalleled success of Elizabeth Van Loo's network did not stem from mere luck or the incompetence of Confederate investigators, but from her profound, dark understanding of institutional cognitive dissonance, wherein the Southern elite chose to ignore the blatant clues of her treason, because admitting a high society woman could outsmart their entire military apparatus was a psychological humiliation they simply could not bear to accept. As Richmond finally fell in April 1865, and the city burned around her in a chaotic inferno of defeat, Van Loo did not flee or hide in the shadows. Instead, she boldly marched through the smoke to become the very first person to raise the Union flag over the captured capital, a defiant public act that instantly transformed her from a suspected eccentric into the single most hated woman in the South. When General Ulysses S. Grant personally visited her mansion to thank her for providing the most crucial intelligence of the entire war, he appointed her Postmaster General of Richmond, a position of immense power that allowed her to employ her former spy network. Yet this official federal recognition only deepened the icy, lifelong isolation imposed on her by her vengeful neighbors, who treated her as a pariah until the day she died. In a final, tragic irony, the federal government and her own family systematically purchased and destroyed the very records of her heroic espionage to protect the identities of her operatives, leaving us to wonder how many of her greatest victories remain forever buried in the ashes of the Confederacy, lost to history. As we look back at the shadow war fought in the parlor rooms of Richmond, we are left to ponder, does true patriotism require the betrayal of one's own neighbors, and would you have the courage to play the fool to save a nation?